Okay, so today we're going to talk about gifted education, and we're going to talk about it primarily as it relates to Pennsylvania regulations. As we know, unfortunately, there really is not I'll say, a separate, strong federal law for supporting our gifted children. And so it's really up to individual states as to whether or not they support children who are identified as gifted. So, what is gifted education? A student who is thought to be gifted is based off of the school district screening of the student, indicating that the child has high potential, consistent with the definition, I should say. Their performance in the classroom really has to exceed that of other students. So it's defined as outstanding intellectual and creative ability. It used to be just intellectual ability, but we now certainly pay attention to talents as well. So a lot of times you'll see gifted and talented. Um, the child has to require specially designed instruction, just like another child with a disability. There has to be some specialization for this child. Our support services are both, and normally provided both inside and outside of regular education. So the children possess really special characteristics in their ability to learn, and there needs to be instruction so that there's meaningful benefit for the child. The child does receive a GIEP, so we're used to IEPs, but gifted children receive what's called a GIEP, or Gifted Individualized Education Plan. And it has to be based on and responsive to the results of that screening and subsequent evaluation of the child. School districts have to ensure that the gifted student's individual plan includes a range of both, you'll see these two terms constantly when you look at gifted education. Acceleration and enrichment are both. So based on the child's needs, acceleration and enrichment are both. The regular education curricula and instruction has to be adapted, modified, or replaced. So when we talk about assessing or measuring mental giftedness, we cannot, just like with other children with disabilities, use one test or measure. One test or measure is not sufficient. So we have to make sure that we are using multiple measures. So we definitely have to look at an IQ score, and generally the cutoff is around an IQ of 130. But we also have to look at other things. We have to look at achievement, how fast the child learns, so their rate of acquisition and their retention. We have to look at their early skill development and any factors that might be masking a child's giftedness, and so this is important as well. So when we talk about achievement, we're talking about a year or more above grade achievement level. So in other words, the child has to be above their grade level as validated by achievement tests. The subject results shall yield academic instruction levels in all academic subject areas, although we sometimes do see children who are gifted in one area, such as gifted in math, but maybe not necessarily in literacy skills. When we talk about rate of acquisition, we're talking about how quickly the child will pick up or understand or demonstrate competency of what they've learned. Rate of acquisition and rate of retention of new material and skills can be defined as how many repetitions the student needs before the student masters that new information. And rate of acquisition and retention is used to adjust the pace of learning for the gifted child. So that gets into the acceleration piece of instruction. So how quickly we have to accelerate the curriculum for the child. Demonstrated achievement, performance, or expertise in one or more academic areas as evidenced by excellence of products, portfolio, or research, as well as criterion reference testing, is used to demonstrate a child's achievement. So again, we're looking at a range of things that help us to look at the child's achievement. Another criterion is the student's demonstrated achievement, performance-based skills, or expertise that shows a high level of accomplishment. We do look at early skill development. We actually do screen children very early on, either generally before kindergarten, but the early years are extremely important for us to identify giftedness. There are some variables that might mask giftedness in a child. So, for example, if a child lives in poverty, if a child's native language is not English, if a child has some form of disability, the giftedness might be masked. And we have to be very careful with assessing children that might be gifted, but for some reason we don't always pick up on the gifted part um, of their characteristic, of their trait, of who they are. So we need to screen for giftedness, and then as indicated before, we're screening very early on, and we have data that can help us to make decisions. We have a multidisciplinary evaluation, as indicated before, and the evaluation looks at all of the data to help make a decision, and looks at suspected giftedness, including academic functioning, learning strengths, and educational needs. Indicators of giftedness should be drawn from, again, a wide variety of sources. The gifted team has the responsibility of contributing information to the gifted multidisciplinary team, and a team assures the comprehensiveness of this data. Once the data is collected, again, we're writing the GIEP. All right, or the gifted written report, which is comparable to a child's evaluation report in another disability or reevaluation report. So essentially what we're talking about is the evaluation report here. And then, just like with a regular IEP, a determination is made about the child's giftedness. And if so, finally, we get to the GIEP. And so the GIEP is a written document, and it's based on the results of the evaluation. Now, in Pennsylvania, our regulations that govern giftedness are referred to as Chapter 16. Placement for children who are gifted really is generally the regular education classroom. A child could be accelerated to a higher level grade, but we're talking about the regular ed classroom. The evaluation, getting back to that, again, there's a timeline. Just like with a regular IEP, it must be within 60 calendar days after receiving the written parental permission for an evaluation, for an initial evaluation, or after notifying the parents of a reevaluation, or after receiving an order of a court or hearing officer to conduct a multidisciplinary evaluation. Getting back to placement or service delivery, right? We want to make sure that there's options for the child for the combination of acceleration and enrichment, or one or the other. So pull out can be used and is used a lot when we're talking about gifted children. Acceleration to a higher grade is used. And so you have to really consider what would be the best options for the child. Chapter 16 in Pennsylvania requires districts to provide gifted students with specially designed instruction. The instruction is defined as adaptations or modifications to the curriculum, to the instruction that the teacher delivers, to the environment the child learns in, the methods, the materials, or having a whole special curriculum for the child. Implementation of specially designed instruction requirements is the responsibility of the gifted support staff and the regular ed teacher. Gifted materials should be provided to address the advanced conceptual and processing abilities of the child. And often these materials and resources are not typically used by other children in the regular ed classroom. Research has shown that gifted students benefit from being grouped together for meaningful instruction during the school day. So grouping homogeneously as well can be important. And school districts are free to group across grades according to academic talent, on some other performance characteristic, or develop a gifted education consortium or cooperative arrangement with other schools. Sometimes we see children at the high school level actually taking some college courses as well. Chapter 16 in Pennsylvania requires that professional personnel be certified individuals responsible for identifying gifted students and providing gifted education. We don't have a gifted certification in Pennsylvania, but generally, um, someone involved in gifted education has had a lot of training in this area. In order for this instruction to be effective, it's necessary for both gifted education teachers and regular education teachers to be working together and to be knowledgeable about working with gifted children. So again, this ongoing training is very important. And that concludes this lecture.